With the latest agriculture news from across the state and nation, it's time for the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. Here's your host, Sabrina Halverson.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning on the AgNet News Hour. To kick off the show today, I'm handing the mic over to Chuck Zimmerman, who was at the Syngenta Media Summit last week. Here's Chuck.
I'm visiting with Syngenta in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I have with me Jeff Cecil. And first of all, tell me what you do.
Yeah, Chuck, I'm the head of marketing for North America for our crop protection division, and I've been with Syngenta about 30 years. So take care of all of our marketing campaigns, all of our pricing and strategy for our products.
Well, I think the first thing I'd love to have you just say a little bit about is the fact we're in a new facility that is actually still being worked on. I guess we're kind of one of the first groups to be able to come in here, which is we appreciate. Just tell us a little bit about this new facility that you're putting together.
Yeah, so we've been on this site for the last 50 years here in Greensboro. We've moved a few hundred yards to a new facility just recently. About 6 months ago, we started moving into this building. The building really is all-encompassing. So we have all of our commercial teams here, as well as our functions, including R&D. We have our scientists here on site, lots of labs. We have a really good opportunity to collaborate across all the different functions on site so that we can be as innovative as we possibly can.
Well, using that term, innovation, is what I looked at as a theme for your opening talk here to the group. Tell us a bit about that in terms of where Syngenta's been and what you see for the future to continue the kind of innovation we've been doing.
Yeah, that's a great question because innovation takes on a lot of different meanings for different people. Having the ability to innovate for products has been a real success for Syngenta over the last many years. We've introduced more products into the industry in the last 10 years than any other of our competitors, which has given us an interesting place to be able to grow our business. But the innovation really starts well beyond the product, and it really starts with our customers giving us the needs that they have to answer the changing environments that they have and address their everyday needs. Our goal is to make products that are profitable for the farmer, that can give them a good return on investment, and they can see higher yields. In order to do that, we have to have the best-in-class technologies, the best-in-class people, and the best-in-class relationships across the industry. And so, having everybody here on this new site is part of that, to be able to collaborate, understand, and then build on our successes. So we're really excited about what that brings for the future. Having the opportunity to develop products in real time for the real problems is what it's about. But innovation goes well beyond that. So new technologies, we were just talking about AI and what that could do. Being able to incorporate those new technologies into the product development as we go is very important. So not just with AI, but being able to talk about technical different medias that you can use in order to develop products.
Describe the spectrum of different types of product areas that you are.
Yeah, so we're working on every different category of product. So we work on herbicides and fungicides, insecticides. Obviously, we're into seed care very largely, and we have a new tool of biologicals that's on its way. So we're really into developing new products that fit the need in every category. We're very fortunate to have two new technologies that are very close to market, with plinazolin technology, which is a best-in-class new insecticide that will be coming very soon, and a new product, nematicide called Timerium technology, which is also on its way in the next months. So we're really excited to be able to continue our development.
Anything else that you thought this group here, a bunch of agricultural media journalists, anything else you wanted them to know about where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think the where we're at is we are with the American farmer. And we are trying to do our best to look down the road for what challenges to come. And we're trying to support U.S. agriculture in ways with new technologies, but beyond that, just our way of thinking, bringing in the opportunity to really collaborate with them and understand the needs they have every day, to look for the future and develop products. So, that's a big part of why we have the new site. The old site, we were there for 50 years. And like I said, it's a few hundred yards away, but it's 50 years old. And so, being able to be new, innovative, and creative takes a space that will allow for that. And we're really excited about continuing our relationship with the American farmer, as well as being able to drive change and effective foresight into what's coming.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, for visiting with me here. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm Chuck Zimmerman reporting.
This is the AgNet News Hour, and we will be back with Chuck Zimmerman right after this.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. Here's Sabrina Halverson.
We continue now with Chuck Zimmerman at the Syngenta Media Summit.
I am visiting with Syngenta at their new facility here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I have with me Beth Willard. First of all, Beth, tell us what you do for Syngenta.
I am a formulation scientist. So once the active ingredients are developed and our product biologists determine what rates they'd like in the field, the product comes to us, and it's our job to develop a formulation that is shelf stable, delivers the right rate of the active ingredient, and delivers the application properties that our growers are looking for.
Well, this is new insecticide technology that we're talking about here. The name for it is planazoline, and just tell me a little bit about this one that you've been working on.
So planazoline technology has been in the works for a long time. I've been working with the company for 8 years, and I've been working on planazoline technology for my entire career. So I am excited that we're getting to the point where we're close to launching it.
Talk about the formulation for it, and also, what insects will this be used for?
Sure. So the formulation that we kind of showcased today is a fertilizer-compatible formulation, and it's for corn in furrow. And so we're looking at pests like wireworm.
So with the formulation that you're working on, mainly targeting corn at this point?
This specific formulation, yes, but the active ingredient will go into a number of different types of formulations. So we'll have foliar, we'll have in furrow, and we'll have seed applied. And so we'll have it across a wide variety of pests in a wide variety of crops.
You had a little demonstration for us that I thought was fascinating, because this is something that a farmer's going to want to put into like a tank mix for planting or whatever. But you were showing us how this formulation that you're talking about, how it is much better suited for doing that the way the farmer needs it versus some of the other ones that are out there.
Yeah, so fertilizer compatibility is a hot topic. It's a huge need in the U.S. Market, and there's not a lot of solutions out there that deliver the performance that growers need. When we started this project, we looked at what was out there, we looked at the technology that's available to us, and we quickly realized that not everybody is really even speaking the same language when they say fertilizer compatible. And so we tasked ourselves with developing a formulation that could be diluted into neat fertilizer and cause no application problems and deliver excellent performance out in the field.
So tell us a little about making the product and the active ingredient in it, because it's definitely got a lot of steps with it, and it's not something that just happens in a day.
Right. So the active ingredient itself is very complicated. It took a lot of innovation to get here. There's 14 different steps in making the active ingredient. It takes about 15 months. We bring in materials by boat, by land, sometimes by air if needed. And then that final formulation step is done right here in the U.S. in Omaha, Nebraska. And that's where our formulations are developed for our U.S. market.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you hope is the time frame that this can be out on the market.
So we're hoping to see this out in 2025.
We don't always know the exact date and time, I know that, but we'll keep our eyes open for it, because I'm sure farmers are. I would assume you have to kind of estimate the volumes that you need once we do have that registration.
Yeah, so here in Greensboro, we've already been working with our production site in Omaha to make sure we're ready to make this at production scale when we're able to. And so we're doing quality testing in the labs. We're going back and forth with them, making sure we have the ingredients that we need so that we can get this to market.
Anything else we didn't touch on that you might want to say?
Yeah, I think that this formulation is a really exciting showcase of the innovation that takes place at Syngenta. When we were developing this formulation, we screened over 100 different chemistries of ingredients that could go into it to deliver a shelf-stable formulation that was also fertilizer compatible. After we screened those first 100, once we got a hit on one of them, we then looked at over 70 different slight variations of that chemistry to really hone in on the one that would deliver the performance we want. So it's taken a lot to get here. There were over 3 years of development that went into this product, and since then about 4 years of optimization. So that's just one of our formulations that's coming with this new technology. Each product we'll be bringing to market has its own development story with it as well. And we've put that type of research and care into each product that's been developed to make sure it has the characteristics that are needed for the market that it's going into.
Well, thank you very much, Beth, for visiting with me here and talking about this new insecticide technology. I'm visiting with Syngenta, and we are in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I have with me Logan Romines. First of all, Logan, what do you do for the company?
Yeah, thanks, Chuck. I'm what we call a row crop fungicide product marketing lead, so I manage the advertising, promotional, and pricing strategy for the fungicide brands that we spray in corn, soybeans, and cereals.
Well, first question, how is Syngenta advancing row crop fungicide performance?
I think the big thing there, Chuck, for us is in 2016 and then again in 2018, we brought two new chemistries into the marketplace, and solatinol technology and adeptin technology that have really shifted the standard that growers can kind of come to expect, both from a disease control standpoint on some of these more difficult to control diseases like a southern rust or a tar spot, but also provided really robust plant health benefits that help growers get more consistent return on investment even in the absence of disease.
So what does it mean when you talk to, say, your customers and you talk about being cleaner and greener?
Yeah, so cleaner, greener is a Syngenta way to help explain to folks that our products provide disease control, which kind of ties back to that cleaner piece, but also greener is those plant health benefits. And we really said that because we want both of those things to be equally important when we talk about a fungicide. Cleaner, really, we would say, is table stakes. You obviously don't have a fungicide if it doesn't control disease. But that greener piece is more unique, and that's what we kind of talk about sometimes as more intangible benefits. But we break that down really into one of three buckets. One is a light energy increase, so the plant is better able to use the sunlight that it's getting to help boost grain fill. Second one there is a water use efficiency increase, so the plant is able to make better use of the water that's available to it. And then last is really on harvestability and stock quality to help that crop stand strong when we get later into the season. And we really boiled all those down into three benefits that we think resonate with growers that really mean something to them at the end of the day. So, again, when we think cleaner, greener, that's how you'll hear Syngenta talk about our products in the marketplace, cleaner being disease control and greener being those plant health benefits.
We are in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm Chuck Zimmerman reporting.
This is the AgNet News Hour, and we will be back in just a moment. This segment is brought to you by Live Earth Products. To get to know a little more about Live Earth Products, we're talking on the phone today with Vice President Russell Taylor. Let's talk about LEP. What are the key benefits of your products for farmers in the Western Zone?
So Live Earth Products, we mine and manufacture a ingredient called humate. Now, humate is rich in organic acids called humic acid and fulvic acid. Now, those are common components in your soil organic matter. And here in the western United States, unlike those places around the Mississippi going east, actually have very low organic matter. Now, your organic matter is key think of it as the pantry in the soil. So it's key to water retention, nutrient retention, nutrient cycling, microbial activity, those kind of things. So anything that's going to impact the increase in soil organic matter will also impact things like water holding capacity and nutrient holding capacity, which is a big deal here in the West when water is not as abundant as it is in the east side of the United States.
Now, what about nitrate? I know nitrate can be a problem in some soils. So how do LEP products help reduce the nitrate problem on saturated soils?
So Live Earth Products, it's not unique in how we affect nitrogen, but any organic matter will help retain nitrogen. So typically the mechanisms that we use are blending the nitrogen with the humate. So what happens is the nitrogen will attach to the humic acid, and you will see less of the processes that degrade or volatilize nitrogen. So nitrogen will either convert to a gas or it'll be converted by microbes into a nitrate and leached to the soil. So the longer you have that product is not being volatilized or converted, it's a longer opportunity for that nutrient to be used by the plant. We have university testing that has shown that when you blend these organic acids with the nutrient, you give that plant a longer opportunity to use that nutrient before it's lost, volatilized, or converted.
To get to know more about Live Earth products, you can visit them online at liveearth.com. That is spelled LIVEARTH.com.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. Here's Sabrina Halverson.
Welcome back. I'm on the road today heading to the FIRA conference in Woodland, and I'll have more on that starting tomorrow. But filling in for me today for this segment is Brian Winnekins. Now he's following the Pure Prairie poultry story out of the Midwest. The poultry co-op that just up and deserted all of its farmers. Now those farmers are now facing financial disaster because they haven't received any help in the matter. Now this is a cautionary tale of what can happen in a case like this anywhere in the nation, not just the Midwest, but here in California too. So we go now to Brian Winnekins.
Joining me this morning, Dawn Fila, her and her husband, Terry. Of course, we talked with Terry last week with the whole situation with the Pure Prairie poultry where the farmers were abandoned by the company. And basically, the company said, get your own feed, do whatever you want, but we're done, and good luck to you. Have a nice day. And so wanted to talk a little bit with Dawn here and just kind of get a follow-up on how everyone's doing. Dawn, it's been a stressful few weeks. How you doing? How's the family doing?
Good. We're better today, and then we're better today. A lot better today. It's relieving.
And I know that this last couple of weeks for you and your husband and your children, it's been stressful to say the least, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
What was the hardest part? Just knowing that you couldn't feed the birds for so long? Walking
in there and you open the door and the dust and feathers just fly to the other side of the barn because we were asked to turn the lights off so they didn't rustle around too much. And when you do turn the lights on or open that door and they get that light, it's whoosh, and then you got to walk through there, and then they're coming towards you. I mean, they're big. They're like little turkeys. They were big. They were like little turkeys. No, it's nice. I like this a little better right now. Just no birds right now. It just feels nice because they were in there for 60-some days, and it was too much.
So, when you had decided that you were going to be giving the birds away for a donation, and then other farmers associated with Pure Prairie Poultry, they were kind of doing the same thing. But you have to be at least, bad situation, but you have to be at least, people from, I guess, all over the country showed up to try to help you out?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, 1 week ago, these barns were posted free birds, and 7 days later, nobody has a bird. That's amazing. And it felt good to give people some, to help people. I didn't care if they brought it, I didn't care if they put a donation in there or not. I just wanted to get up and see this in the morning. No birds in there because they were in there long enough.
And of course, they didn't end up going to waste.
No, they didn't. No. A lot of families came. We got to meet so many people. Hugged a lot of people. I had no, I'm not a huggy person, but it was good. It was nice. It was relieving.
For some of those folks, was this their first time ever coming to a poultry barn? And I'm sure they might have had a ton of questions.
We were here for the most part. No, most people kind of knew what was going on. Some I didn't really want the kids in there, but little kids, were trying to help carry birds, and it was kind of cute, and it felt nice. It felt good.
Now I understand that you ended up having to help loading up some of the birds as well. And how the arms doing?
Oh, I was sore this morning. I was sore before I went to bed. Oh, I was tired, but I feel a hell of a lot better today.
Again, we're talking with Dawn Fila, her and her husband Terry, one of the Pure Prairie poultry farmers that were abandoned by the company, and they were giving away their birds. And as we were doing this video, or this interview rather, even though you have a sign saying we're empty, you still have folks saying we have Minnesota plates.
There's people in our driveway right now. We don't have any more birds left. Sorry, that's all I can say. It says empty at the bottom of the driveway.
So I guess, you and your husband are trying to figure out you're still kind of recovering from what's happened, but where do you go from here?
I don't know. Get up tomorrow morning.
Do you want to try to, if there's another company or something, do you want to stay as a contract grower, or is this it for you?
No, I don't. No, I like the birds. No, don't get me wrong. I like them. I prefer just one barn. It's a lot of work with 2 barns, and if he wants to work, that's even more work for me because I work too off the farm. So the boys help us, but I don't expect them to do it, and I don't want to force them to do it either because they're not going to like doing it later.
How are the children? How did the boys? Are they okay after? Because I'm sure they felt the stress from mom and dad. Are they doing okay?
I don't think they really comprehended the whole thing because we didn't really say a lot to them in the beginning what was going on. They asked for their allowance and we're like, next week.
Well,
we're working on
it. But that's what the company was telling you. We're working on it, correct?
Yes, that's yep.
It's again a terrible situation, but we're glad that you were able to get the barns emptied and all that. And I wish you and your husband and your family the best, and I hope that in the future you'll be able to have a reputable place that will come in and you'll be able to work with them. Again, thanks for joining us, Dawn.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming out.
That's Dawn Fila, her and her husband Terry, one of the Pure Prairie poultry farmers that were abandoned by the company and basically left to their own devices.
This is the AgNet News Hour, and we'll continue with Brian Winnikins right after this.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. Here's Sabrina Halverson.
We're continuing now with Brian Winnikins, who is following the Pure Prairie poultry story out of the Midwest.
And joining us this morning, State Senator Jeff Smith. He's currently our state senator, at least till the end of the year, but had a chance to talk with Senator Smith over the weekend. And you know what we're going to be talking about, Pure Prairie poultry and the abandonment of their chickens and their farmers, not only in Wisconsin but in Iowa and also in Minnesota. And Senator, thanks for joining us today. I guess there's so many issues we can go on about. Why isn't the state of Wisconsin doing anything other than from the Department of Ag? They said, well, we were telling the farmers, call the farm center, get a voucher for mental health, and that's about it.
So I haven't heard that one before, Brian, until you've told me that part of it. But I've talked to the DNR secretary, Randy Romanchik, and what Randy tells me is that they don't have the authority through state statutes to do the things that you're seeing happening in Iowa and Minnesota. They don't have that authority. But we as a legislature have the authority to give them what they need, and I would have liked to have seen the possibility of some funding that because we're sitting on, as you know, quite a bit of funds right now in our state. What we don't have is the willingness to get together, Joint Finance Committee. They need to come together maybe and say, hey, look, we want to make sure that this is taken care of, because I know there's a lot of concern. I'm hearing it just like you're hearing it from people every day over the last week that, something's got to be done. Now, it's interesting to me that all of a sudden something's got to be done, and I know more often than not people don't want government actually stepping into their barn and doing anything, but now when a disaster happens, that's why government should be available, right? I get that. And we have 479,000 from the count that I was given of chickens in Wisconsin that are affected by this. Now, half of them are breeding hens, so you can, as we go down the numbers, so half of them are breeding hens, they're going to be okay because the other companies are interested in purchasing those breeding hens. So now we're down to, less than 250,000. That's a lot of chickens. I saw, as you have seen, the farmers have been selling them for $1 a piece if people can show up. I know yesterday that was a big deal in Mondovi, and that particular farm that I know of, they were down to 1,000 chickens or something out of 40,000. That's impressive. A lot of people obviously showed up, but it's a very difficult situation, and we don't have time because these are meat chickens, right? They do not live long. They can't support their own weight, and now they're starving because you don't blame the farmers. They're in a business of making money, and if they can't make money, they can't afford to feed them. And it's a very difficult situation that everybody's in.
So from what we can tell, the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture was notified by the company that this was happening. The Department of Ag responded, I have a copy of the letter, well, we hope you will do the right thing, and because there's nothing we can do. First, let's talk about the animal welfare issue. I understand that there's quote-unquote no state statute. So in other words, over 100,000 that I know of, it could be more, chickens are going to be allowed to starve and there's nothing we can do. Drive down the road, somebody has an emaciated cow and they're in jail. This just doesn't wash with me. I don't get it.
That's a really good question, because I do know there's strict regulation of how these barns have to, once they go through the process, feeding, raising to the age, and then they move them out, they have to, I don't know how many, can't remember what I was always told, 2 weeks or something, where they have to go through the whole barn, they have to cleanse it, they have to make sure it's pure and there's no diseases, and they have to do it twice, from what I understand, before they can bring in the next bunch of chickens. Now, because we know there's that's kind of regulation, you got to think there's regulation that says you also can't starve your chickens, right? So again, it's a very difficult situation. The state itself is not prepared to purchase the chickens, go through the processing. They can't find processors. I was also told that processors that they've talked to, the state DAT, the Department of Ag, has talked to, said they could only take 200 at a time. Well, that's going to take us too long, and for the processors that we have in the state, it's not going to happen. So to get us through this disaster before it's too late. So it's just a really terrible rock and a hard place. We can't forget who put us there, and this is this corporation who decided they were going to close doors rather suddenly, because even though it's been 2 weeks now since they particularly made this decision, it's sort of like the hospitals in Eau Claire suddenly made a decision, told people that they're closing, and out of the blue, and looking for a job. So we've got people out of work in the factories in Iowa. We've got farmers here. They're going to have to either shut down for good or find other buyers, which, we've got Golden Plump in our area here that have already probably have contracts with the farmers that they need. Are they going to be able to expand? Probably not. So there's a lot of people going to be in a very difficult situation moving forward.
Don't you feel, though, it's a failure of the whole system, of the state government? Department of Ag gets this. They know that they don't have issues, but then go to the governor. Governor gets the head of the assembly in, head of the state senate, and says, look, this is what's going on. We have nothing here at the moment. We're going to have a big disaster coming. Right now, Wisconsin nationwide is looking pretty bad. Let's get everybody in. No, it's campaign season. Sorry, but aren't you mad about that?
Yeah, but you're dreaming, Brian. You know that we were 3 weeks away from an election. You're not going to get joint finance in. You're not going to get these legislators in. The governor has tried in other situations. Go back to the hospital situation. We tried to work with them. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. We're dreaming when we think that we can actually make that happen. Again, we have money sitting there. There's no reason that we can't use those funds for an emergency just like this. This is an emergency. And yet we're in a position where we can't seem to get along. We can't get the governor and the leaders of the caucuses, and Republican leaders in the House and Republican leader in the Senate, to actually do anything.
I know that we're here at an event, and I know it's going to be starting soon. One final question. Are you very concerned that 100,000 chickens have been sold for $1 to people all over the state of Wisconsin into Minnesota? Now we have a potential biosecurity with the H5N1 that could affect other poultry and our dairy industry.
That's a really big concern, and no one's talking about that as much as they should be. I was concerned when there was a rumor that, they're going to open their doors and they're just going to let them loose. You can't do that. You just can't do that, because you don't know what you're sending out there. And the same thing with, now we have private individuals taking how many chickens they can handle and processing themselves. Hopefully they know what they're doing, and hopefully they can do it safe, but you just don't know, right? So now there's no one overlooking because they're spread out. It's not like we had them all in one place like we should with those farmers and with those processing plants. Now they're spread out, and that is a concern. And there's, it is what it is now.
Wisconsin State Senator Jeff Smith.
This is the AgNet News Hour. I'm Sabrina Halverson, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. Here's Sabrina Halverson.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. We are wrapping up the day today with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association from its Beltway Beef podcast. Here's Hunter Ehrman.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of NCBA's Beltway Beef podcast. I'm Hunter Ehrman. Back in 2017, Congress passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, major tax legislation that reduced the tax burden on farms and ranches across the country. Now fast forward to today, and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is set to expire at the end of 2025. That's why the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is focusing on taxes for the next year and pushing for more tax relief for cattle producers. Tax issues are a priority for NCBA because higher taxes pose a direct threat to our farming and ranching legacy. Joining me today to share how taxes impacted his ranch is NCBA President and Wyoming rancher Mark Isley. Mark, I know earlier in your career you faced some challenges from taxes, including the federal estate tax or the death tax. Would you please share that story with us?
Sure. Good morning, Hunter. Glad to be here and visit with you about this. I think this may be one of the most important issues we tackle. All the things that we worry about in the day-to-day things, our genetics, our transportation, the weather, those are all very important. However, if you do not survive an onslaught of taxes from the federal government, you probably won't be able to stay in business. And in my particular case, this is over 3 decades ago, when I had started to take over the ranch. And it wasn't my family's ranch. I was a non-blood heir, former employee and partner now, and we had survived many things. We'd survived cattle free by '93 for public lands grazing. We'd survived, other issues and dilemmas that had approached us. But as we started to make this transition by '97. We knew we absolutely had to start doing some tax planning and organize this partnership formally and go through all the steps. And boy, at the time, it sure seemed onerous. We had to have some appraisals of the ranch done. We needed to assess how we were going to set the form up. We ended up doing it in a limited partnership, which is great. Brought all the family in, my adult children and my wife. And we were moving forward. We set up the structure and started figuring out how we were going to work that. And one of the things that the attorney that was doing it for us, who was an excellent transition estate planning type attorney, said, boy, we got to really start planning for taxes, because if they change the law, you're going to really get clipped. Well, we're moving along, and things seemed really great. I didn't see any problems. I'm worried about raising cows and raising a family. And my predecessor, Ann King, she was starting to have some health issues, but we didn't think much about it at the time, other than the fact that happens to everybody as you get older. And we knew that there was going to be a change in the tax laws, that the estate elimination tax was going to go from, 0% back up to, 40, 50, 60%, depending on where you fell. So we thought we were in pretty good shape. Well, we got into 2011, 7 days into 2011, and she passed away. She had a heart attack and passed. And I realized instantly we were 7 days into the new tax year, and that tax rate was going to be fully accelerated. At that time, the ranch was worth about maybe $3 million. Maybe a little less than that, probably closer to $2 million actually. And we thought, well, we should be okay. We've got some exemptions that were already there. Boy, I was sadly mistaken. I found out after we talked to the attorneys and were making field arrangements stuff. They said what you're basically in for is about a 55% tax, because by the time they factored in several things. You could literally be liable for 55% of the value of the ranch above and beyond what you have in it. We weren't going to make it. I couldn't borrow enough money against it. I could not figure a way out of that. But because we had done the tax planning, in addition to the estate plan, we had several things lined out. We had order of succession. We had a fallback position. We had our appraisals done. We had all these things in place, including some excellent time spent with some tax attorneys. And they suggested for us that we hire either a firm or some retired IRS agents to help us with that. And we managed to turn our 55% tax into about a 15% tax. There were several avenues we followed to do that. We devalued the ranch because we actually fell into that category because it has there's multiple easements, pipeline, power line, that sort of thing across it. It had been commercialized for some other reasons. We had a gravel pit on it, that sort of thing. So those were off ranch activities that just added to a revenue stream, but they helped us function to devalue the ranch. So ultimately, that's the thing that pulled together. I was able to overcome that. We had enough set aside in our emergency reserves to do that. It was interesting. It's almost like the IRS already knew how much was in the bank account because they basically taxed us right up to within a few dollars of where it was at. And I've encountered this before. It's like they know exactly how much is in that account before they send you the tax bill. And sure enough, they got 95+% of what we had set aside. So we're kind of back to ground zero, except the ranch was intact. The ranch was still in one piece, and we can continue to function going forward. And I had this amazing realization. We'd spent over 10 years getting ready for this, and it paid off. Now, it was expensive. By the time we had the state attorneys come in, we hired the consultants. And when it was said and done, it probably cost us about $30,000, maybe $35,000 at that time. That was a lot of money. That was a lot of money, but it was a whole lot less money than coming up with $1.2 million. There's no way we could have done it. I came to the realization that there are lots of folks who would be in this dilemma and they would go down in flames. Even if the tax rate for them was considerably less, maybe even 25 or 30%, it still would be insurmountable, especially if they already had debt they had incurred. They were having a crop failure. They were having a bad cattle market. This would be insurmountable. And as I got to be president of the Wyoming Stockgrowers Association, I realized the need. So I worked with our executive, Jim McGagnon, and we started having seminars and meetings with the stock growers at our conventions and some other set-aside meetings where we went to different communities. And we brought in tax planners, certified life planners, bankers, attorneys, anybody that would help counsel. But on top of that, we also brought in lots of folks who had experienced some train wrecks. And I didn't think anybody would volunteer to tell us about some of those train wrecks, similar to mine. And we found out that there were lots of them. And by the time they told their stories, there was never a dry eye in the house. It was very moving.
This is the AgNet News Hour. We'll continue with Beltway Beef and Hunter Ehrman right after this.
Welcome back to the AgNet News Hour. Here's Sabrina Halverson.
We continue now with Hunter Ehrman and the Beltway Beef podcast from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Today he's talking with NCBA President and Wyoming rancher Mark Isley about taxes.
So, Mark, you mentioned that at one point you were staring down the barrel of this huge tax bill. What would that have done to your ranch if you weren't able to reduce your tax rate? How would that have impacted your ability to stay in business?
We couldn't have stayed in business, pure and simple. We would have had to liquidate the ranch and pay the taxes, and there would have been nothing viable left of the ranch. Might have saved the house and the barns, but as far as the grazing lands and all the inputs we had on it, improvements with equipment and such, it was gone. And we were under pressure because there's development all around us. Those folks would have happily consumed us, but we'd have had nothing left over that. And at that time, the ranch was almost 100 years old, 97 years old or something, the same family. And that's what would have been the death of it. The ranch had survived all kinds of the world wars. It had survived the Depression. It had survived the collapse of livestock markets, and the taxes were what was going to get it. And I thought that was just tragic that would happen. I was heartbroken. I was physically sick until we realized we actually had a backstop. So I have worked strongly to encourage people to explore their options, be prepared to make those plans in advance. But that is what is so troubling about the upcoming new tax laws. We're about to run into the same train wreck. And sometimes I'm questioned by people who go, you ranchers and farmers, you just want all these deductions. Why should we be giving you all these things? Well, I have several good reasons why they need to step up their game and understand what we're doing. And one of them is, first of all, we clothe and feed people. I think the number is 165 people for every person that's in farming and ranching now. That's how many people we feed and clothe. That's a good start. But if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it, we're also about the only business out there that buys most of our inputs at retail and sell our product at wholesale. And in addition to that, we provide several really great things for the general public, things that you can't just buy off the shelf. We provide open space, we provide clean air, clean water, riparian areas, wildlife habitat, all those things that people want and enjoy, and we get no real benefits out of other than the ability to try to run our operations on our ranch through. So I tell them we need those different benefits, those different things that happen through the tax laws to help us stay in business.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing your perspective with us.
You're more than welcome. I hope this advice helps some people. And of course, if there isn't anything else that I can offer, maybe I can offer the fact that NCBA has some great information on this, and we can certainly help people find a direction through this forest if they need some. So I'm grateful to be associated with these organizations because they actually put up and come through with their promises and help their producers. So the pleasure has been all mine this morning.
That's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Sabrina Halverson. Have a good day.
To get more information on the topics you heard today, visit AgNet West at agnetwest.com. You can also stay connected by following us on our social media at AgNet West on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Also look for Sabrina Halverson on Facebook, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast by searching for AgNet West on your podcast app. Thank you for listening to the AgNet News Hour from AgNet West. AgNet West Radio Network, your primary choice for agriculture news.